Hi everybody, it's me, Dodger Card Collector, and for my second video, I thought I would talk about my card collecting history. It's one of the things I've enjoyed most watching all the other YouTube videos is where the collectors explain their history in the card collecting world, and it's interesting to see just the similarities we have and or things they did different because everybody collects differently. But I've been collecting since 1973, but technically before that, my brother, he had some cards from 1970 and 1971 that he kept lying around the house. And I really enjoyed looking at them and, laying them all over the living room floor or in the den and just staring at them. I think he eventually gave those cards away or mom threw them out. I don't know what happened, but around 1973, I was 8 years old and I decided I wanted to start buying baseball cards. And my very first pack, I remember, included guys like Ed Herman of the White Sox, Steve Yeager of the Dodgers. And I was just in heaven that day. I remember I bought 10 packs of cards that day. And back then, a pack cost 10 cents. And so I came home with like 100 cards. So it was really fun. And that really started me on my journey of card collecting. I collected throughout the 70s, 73 through 80. And I think 1976 was my very first set. I actually went and bought, there was a vendor, a seller back then. Some of you out east might remember this person named Renata Galasso. And for $10, I bought the 1976 set. And that also came with a World Series program or an All-Star Game program from late 1974. So that was my first set. Like I said, I collected through 80. And at that point, I also had my very first job was working at one of the very first baseball card stores outside of Los Angeles. It was called the Fun Shop. Eventually, the name got switched to Baseball Card Headquarters. And I got to work there during like summer of freshman to sophomore year of high school, I think. And I got paid under the table a whopping $9 a day to work from 12 to 5. And I'd sort baseball cards all day. Oh, I was in heaven. I thought it was amazing. So I did that and I picked up whatever cards I needed for my collection when I was sorting through these cards. And I would buy them from the owner back then. So back then, I thought I had a pretty nice collection. That was, like I said, from 73 to 80. And somewhere in that era, around 79 or 80, myself and a couple of friends, we went to what was then called a convention. It was a baseball card convention at the Marriott Hotel outside of LAX. And I didn't know this till like 40 years later, till I started watching YouTube. I attended the very first National. So that was really interesting. And I remember I walked in, and I know everybody's talking about going to the National right now. The National's in a few weeks in Atlantic City. Back then when we went in, we had no idea what was going to happen. And we walked in, and within 5 minutes, I had bought like a huge lot of 1970s Topps baseball, an enormous lot of 1968 Topps baseball. My friends were like going, what are you doing? And all of a sudden we didn't have backpacks back then or Pelican cases. I remember I was just walking around with like a bank bag. My brother gave me a bank bag where people put coins in, and I was throwing my cards in there. So I thought that was hysterical. I mean, looking back, I thought it was hysterical. And I always remember I showed up with $30 to this convention. That was a lot of money. I'm sorry. That was just a shitload of money. It was $30, and I came home with seriously like somewhere between 800 and 1,000 cards. I remember I bought a 1952 Bobby Shantz card for $1. I wasn't smart enough to go looking for a Mickey Mantle back then or anything like that, unfortunately. But back then I was more into quantity than quality. So I came home with a bunch of cards and added it to my collection. So I was by this point I had like a lot of late 60s and a lot of 70s cards. And around 1980, what happens to all of us, I was 15 years old and I wanted to buy a car and I wanted to get a job and, girls were starting to look really nice. So I kind of put collecting off for a few years. And that was literally the first year of the merger, or not the merger, but the intro to Donruss and Fleer in addition to Topps. And I kind of avoided all that for a while. Somewhere after college, or around 1987, I walked into a baseball card store in Upland, California. I don't remember the name of it. The owner was really nice. He sold me, well, one, he told me that baseball cards were booming in 1987. So I made the wonderful decision to buy a 1987 Topps set, including updates. Oh, I think I paid $50 for it. And that was a lot of money at that point. So that kind of brought me back into the hobby for a little bit. I really don't think I took another break, always looking at cards here and there. I should tell you by this point, I had gotten rid of a lot of my original cards. Either Mom had threw them out or I threw them out. They were just, unfortunately, a victim of the times, and they weren't always in the best shape. So by 1987, 1988, all I had was the 87 set that I'd currently purchased. And I had about 100 cards in a binder that I had kept from my original collection. So for the next few years, I was always in love with that 1973 set. I worked on it little by little, and I would buy like Series 1, 100 cards from Series 1, maybe buy 50 cards from Series 2. And then I held on to it and just, took my time. Somewhere around the time that eBay came out, so I want to say somewhere around 98, 99, so we're fast forwarding here about 10 years. All of a sudden, I had a little bit more money, and I thought, there was this new thing called eBay. I didn't have to go to a baseball card store anymore, and I started buying all these Dodger cards, all these Dodger team cards. I remember there was constantly 1959 Dodger Topps lot, 1963 Dodger Topps lot, 1968 Dodger Topps lot. And I just kept buying. And I remember one time I spent like $200. And again, that was a lot of money back then. My rent was only $500. So I had accumulated a lot of Dodger cards, and I started putting them in binders. And again, then I started buying these massive, I think at this point, my goal was, let's get a lot of Dodger cards. Because then I started buying like 3,000 count and 5,000 count Dodger boxes, which were filled with a lot of like Upper Deck, Score, Donruss, Pacific, whatever Pacific was called back then. And I just accumulated a ton of cards. And then again, they just sat there. Going back to the 1973 set, I kept building that little by little. Fast forward again to 2007, and I think this is really where things started to get serious for me. So that was only 15 years ago. Around 2007, I started working on the Dodger collection, and the 1973 collection. Eventually, I finally finished that 1973 set, and I was so proud. I had it in a binder. It looked wonderful. And I still was accumulating Dodger cards and putting them in binders. And I had a good chunk of Dodgers from, I would say, 1957 through about 2000. I had a lot of Dodger cards accumulated. So again, I kind of left things alone without a plan. And then one day I saw this guy on eBay, like the Ultimate Team Collector, something like that. And what he was doing was he was putting together massive team collections for people who liked the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Brewers, the Reds. And he laid out a really nice checklist. And I just took out his checklist and started looking at what cards I needed. Now, mind you, this was in now we're up to 2010, 2012. I had no 21st century baseball cards. Went to one of my local card shows and caught up with what was in, what wasn't in, what to look for, what not to look for. And I decided instead of building sets, I was going to finish my Dodger team. I was going to be a Dodger team collector. So from there, I had all the checklists laid out, and I decided to only buy Topps and Topps Update. So from there, I started buying on eBay a bunch of 2010, 2012, 2014, 2015, 2005 Topps Dodger sets, and then I would add the update sets. I had a really nice checklist that I was able to download. And eventually I literally had probably every Dodger card, let's say from 1976 through about 2015, 2016. We were at that point. And then at that point, I was kind of like, I got a lot of Dodger cards. I was really happy. I was still always kept in the back of my mind that I'd gotten rid of some 1974s through 1980 sets. I'd gotten rid of some of my early 70s cards. I'd gotten rid of some of my late 60s cards, which, yeah, unfortunately, I let a Nolan Ryan walk out the door. I think I sold it for like $40 way back in the early 80s. So from there, I ended up trying to get all the cards back that I once had. So I managed to finish the 73 through 80 sets, Topps. One thing I'll tell you, I only buy Topps cards, or I only collect Topps cards now. Then I started working on the 72 set, the 71 set, the 1970 set, finished those. Decided to be a little daring. I was born in 1965, and I bought the 1965. I started working on the 1965 set. That took a couple of years. At the same time, I started a 1953 set, which I thought was crazy to do, but I finally finished that like in February of this year of 2022. So by this point, I've accumulated a lot of cards, and I was influenced by some of the YouTube guys who were buying a lot of slabs. I only have a few hundred, I would say 200 to 300 slabs, but bought some Hall of Famers, and I'll show those cards off to you one day in a different video. But that's basically been my journey. I don't buy a lot of cards. I don't think I buy a lot of cards. I'm currently working on a 1957 set, of which I need about 90 more. There's an auction tonight for Greg Morris that I need to see if I can pick up about 30 more cards. But I don't buy that many cards. I would say I get like 3 to 5 mail days a month. And I love collecting, and it's been a hell of a journey. And I bought some interesting sets and some subsets, and I see some cards that I would like to work on. And yeah, that's been my journey off and on, 1973 through present day. And I would say since around 2009 through present day, it's been a lot more intense, where it's a part of my everyday life. I spend a lot of time doing research on cards and what cards to buy, and buying binders, buying storage, buying top loaders, buying penny sleeves, buying display cases. And like I said, I hope to show that stuff off to you. But today I just wanted to talk to you about my journey in collecting baseball cards. And I hope some of you out there going, man, I have that same journey. Tell me about it. Let me know. Leave me a note in the comments and tell me your journey. So again, thanks for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed what you've seen so far. And we'll talk to you soon, guys. Take care.